I've been very much looking forward to the new season of anime, and the show that I was personally most anticipating was the return of my top favorite sports anime, which was Megalo Box. When Megalo Box debuted back a couple years ago there, it blew me away with its retro aesthetic and modern animation merged into this very interestingly developed show. It kind of reminded me of when you have those older 90s shows remastered for Blu-ray. I love the aesthetic. The soundtrack is still my personal favorite soundtrack in any anime series. I listen to it a fair amount still, even to this day. I loved everything about this interesting idea of taking boxing and adding this mechanical aspect to it, with a man known as Gearless Joe wanting to compete in the big leagues without relying on it. And I was content with the way it ended, but I knew, because of how it's kind of like a reimagining of a very classic manga series, I knew they were going to do some more eventually, and when I heard about Megalobox Season 2, titled Nomad, I was curious to see what they were going to do, and I knew next to nothing about this show going into it for the second season, and I would say the first episode of Season 2 blew me away even more than the debut of the first season. This show's soundtrack is definitely different than what we experienced in the first season, but I think it's equally as powerful. There are so many somber songs throughout this episode, and this is an episode where we watch the champion Joe, addicted to painkillers and alcohol and substances as he wanders as a nomad from ring to ring, refusing to fight fixed opponents like it kind of started out back in the beginning of Season 1. He's seeing our boy here, Nambu, who I'm getting a bad feeling is maybe involved in that typhoon that killed a bunch of people. It feels like he is in a bad mental state, he's in a bad physical state, which makes sense given the last match we saw in Season 1. It does seem like it did a pretty big toll on his body. It feels like we're about to watch either the rise or fall of Gearless Joe, now known as the Nomad. This episode, I think, was one of the most powerful in terms of setting a tone and setting a mood for an already established set of characters. Sure, everyone that we saw in this episode were new, other than obviously Joe, and the visions that he's seeing of his old and forgotten pal by the looks of it. Granted, they may not go the direction of completely dead. If I remember correctly, he did survive in Season 1, so if they do end up killing him off, I mean, that would make sense why he's still seeing him, but maybe it was just a complete falling out. But still, like, there's so many things that I felt while watching this episode where I like the fact that he didn't want to have fixed matches, but it makes sense when you're literally fighting, you're a champion, you're literally a winner of the big leagues. No one's going to be able to keep up with you, and if a bar is not able to make money off you because everyone's going to bet on the person who wins every single time, they're eventually going to cut you loose. So he wanders from location to location up until we get to this final match here, you get this beautiful song in the bar from this guy, and I was like, oh, this is really sweet, and there's some translated lyrics online as well. I think I saw it on r/anime if you want to take a look at it. But still, like, just watching and hearing that and seeing him cry and break down, wanting to throw the pills away, but because he just probably is in so much pain and just wants to be numb, he picks him off the ground by a used toilet, right? It's definitely hard to see a man like that go from where we left off in Season 1 to this, but I think if you're going to bring us back in for a second season, you gotta show us something powerful, and I think this is what exactly this episode did. And to see that match between them, I mean, I was expecting him to lose. I wasn't expecting a fixed match because, I mean, this man seriously was incredibly skilled by the looks of it. He had good relationships with the crowd, and for whatever reason, it didn't even cross my mind that it would end up being a fixed match. I thought it was just going to be, he would lose, maybe it'd be a wake-up call, maybe that would start a transition into him being different. But the idea of him, like, actually dodging the punch, it's not like Joe wasn't strong. He absolutely was. But I really feel like, yeah, like, I can understand the anger from this man, and the fact that it feels like he sort of looks down at Joe for using those painkillers and using that to escape reality, and sees him as someone who's honestly very worthy of being in the ring. But why are you doing this if you seriously want something real? Why are you wandering from just generic fighting ring to do something like this if you don't want it to be fixed? This is kind of what they expected. The crowd had fun. What's the big deal? And you are wondering, like, where are we going after this? Because, I mean, the scene with just the end with the animal, I mean, we have the motorcycle scene to then seeing it dead and him bearing it, looking into the flames. There was so many things there, it almost felt like it was this symbiotic scene where it's like, hey, this is Joe. This is what's going to be Joe. One day he's going to be dead in a motel room bed from overdosing on meds and alcohol. what is going to happen. Is someone going to find him and bury him, or are they just going to toss him out to the street, right? This is not the direction you want to see the former champion go. So where do we go from here? And I'm really going to be interested to piece together the history that happened between season 1 and the beginning of season 2, because I feel like we're about to experience something pretty dark and twisted, and what will be the overall purpose of Joe's journey this season. I think Joe's one of the most interesting sports characters I've seen personally. And over the years, I've gotten more into different sports series that do something different. I mean, last season's Skate really took me by storm, and, I would have thought a skateboarding anime could have been that fun. But something like Megalo Box is just so fresh, and I completely love how they took and kind of captured the same energy that season 1 had, but still feeling like it's fresh and it needs to be here. Really, like when season 1 ended, I was satisfied. I was like, there's no need for another season. Even if the inspiring series that it's using as an influence to reimagine these characters, I mean, we don't need more. It's a satisfying stopping point. But seeing what they're able to accomplish with its first episode, it feels like, yeah, there's still more left to tell. And to see a champion fall so low that he's sitting in an abandoned bus, staring at a flame, seeing maybe even his dead friend and mentor, where do we go from here? And just the idea that the television still talks about Gearless Joe, but how he wouldn't even be able to go up against the opponents today. Like, where are we going to go with that, right? I think this season is going to be incredible, and I am so glad it's back. I mean, they kept the visuals exactly the same way that we had with season 1, which was that gritty, old school kind of reimagining, remaster of a 90s anime, smoothly animated. The punches, I think, were probably even heftier than ever, if I'm being honest, but the soundtrack really took me away. I just remember there were so many times in the first season when I'd listen to the soundtracks that would play, or even just listening to the full soundtrack in full. I think it was like over an hour long. There was just so many tunes that really just set so many different emotions. And I was at first taken back by the way it was so somber, it was so depressing, but it was also, it kind of felt like, it felt lonely, I think is the best way to put it. It felt like one of those things where someone's been alone for so long, and they hear something in a bar like someone like Joe, and it just makes you want to cry because it feels like the first type of companionship you've probably had in a long time. The music in Megalo Box, I think, is still going to stand out as being some of the best, even with its second season. And honestly, without a doubt, this is my most anticipated anime of the season, and I could easily see myself saying, even though there's already been some great debuts anime, for me personally, my own personal preference, I could easily see this once again being my anime of the season, because Megalo Box is just that damn good. I would love to know everyone's thoughts and feelings on Megalo Box Season 2 Nomad, Episode 1 down below. What did you think, and where do you think they're going to go with whole Joe's visions and everything like that? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.